If you have ever noticed your blood pressure rising to its highest point at the exact moment the cuff tightens around your arm, you are not alone. Many adults over 60 tell me the same thing. They are not afraid of illness, but they are afraid of having their blood pressure measured. The heart starts to beat faster, the shoulders tense up, breathing becomes short and rapid, and suddenly the numbers on the monitor jump up, casting a heavy shadow over the entire day. What most people are never clearly told is this: that moment does not mean your heart has suddenly become weaker. It means your nervous system is reacting to a sense of threat. According to scientific reviews from the National Institutes of Health, chronic stress and shallow breathing habits can keep the nervous system in a constant state of high alert for many years. When the brain repeatedly receives signals that the body is not safe, blood vessels stay mildly constricted for long periods of time, and blood pressure rises quietly, day after day. After the age of 60, the nervous system becomes more sensitive, which is why the way you breathe has a much stronger impact than it did earlier in life. This is where the real issue lies. Many people are doing everything they have been told to do. They take their medication regularly. They reduce salt. They walk every day. But if the breath is still sending danger signals to the brain, the body will resist calm. Geriatric specialists at Mayo Clinic have emphasized that blood pressure is not just a number produced by the heart. It is a reflection of whether the body feels safe or threatened in each moment. The good news is that breathing is the fastest pathway to change that message. Just a few minutes of proper breathing can calm the nervous system, allow blood vessels to relax, and help lower blood pressure during stressful moments. In this video, I will share 3 science-based breathing techniques, along with very practical applications designed specifically for adults over 60. You will learn when to use them, why they work, and how to practice them safely at home. If this is your first time watching our videos, consider subscribing to the channel so we can continue sharing senior health insights that are often hard to find elsewhere. And now, let us begin with the most fundamental question of all. How can your breath change your blood pressure? Breathing technique number 1, Physiologic Sigh. One breath that helps the body downshift very quickly. There are moments when you do not need long-term regulation. You need an immediate drop, right before checking your blood pressure, right when your heart starts racing, right when your chest feels tight and your thoughts begin to scatter. In those moments, there is one breathing pattern that many adults over 60 feel working within just a few dozen seconds. It is called the physiologic sigh, also known as the physiological breathing reset. What makes this breathing technique special is that you do not need to calm yourself down first. It is designed to be used while the body is already tense. The breathing has 3 consecutive steps. First, inhale gently through your nose. It does not need to be deep. Immediately after that, take a second, very small inhale through the nose, as if you are topping off the air that is still missing. Finally, exhale slowly and fully through your mouth, making the exhale longer than both inhales combined. Even a single cycle like this can create a noticeable change. Why does it work so quickly? In adults over 60, the lungs often do not fully expand the way they once did. Some old air, rich in carbon dioxide, stays trapped inside. This can trick the body into thinking it is low on oxygen, even when it is not. When you take 2 short inhales in a row, the air sacs in the lungs open more completely, and when you exhale slowly and fully, excess carbon dioxide is released more efficiently. That moment is critical. When carbon dioxide returns to balance, the brain receives a signal that the internal environment is safe. The nervous system begins to lower its alert level. The heart rate slows, blood vessels soften, blood pressure often begins to fall shortly afterward. Many people notice familiar signs. The shoulders drop, the chest feels less tight, the mind becomes less rushed, and this often happens before they even think about the blood pressure number. The physiologic sigh is especially useful before measuring blood pressure, during sudden anxiety, when the heart is racing for no clear reason, or right after receiving news that immediately tenses the body. You only need to perform 2 to 3 cycles, no more than that. The key is not to force the exhale. Make it long but gentle, as if you are breathing out a quiet sigh of relief. The correct feeling is release, not effort. Breathing technique number 2, pursed lip breathing. Lowering blood pressure during shortness of breath and anxiety. Many adults over 60 tell me their blood pressure does not rise all day long. It rises during very specific moments. when they stand up and feel short of breath after just a few steps, when climbing a few stairs makes the heart race, when anxiety appears suddenly, or when it feels like there is not enough air to breathe. In those moments, the body reacts fast. The shoulders lift, the chest tightens, breathing becomes shallow, and blood pressure rises along with it. In these situations, there is a simple breathing technique that is extremely well suited for older adults. It is called pursed lip breathing. Pursed lip breathing is not deep breathing. It is a gentle way to lengthen the exhale, helping the body exit a stress response without effort. When you lightly purse your lips, as if softly whistling, and then exhale slowly, the nervous system receives a clear message. Things are slowing down. There is no immediate danger. From a physiological perspective, the most important part is the exhale. When the exhale becomes longer, the heart rate naturally slows. Blood vessels relax. Pressure inside the vessels decreases. In adults over 60, this effect is often more noticeable because the nervous system is more sensitive than it was earlier in life. The steps are very simple. Inhale gently through your nose for about 2 seconds. You do not need to inhale deeply. Then purse your lips and exhale slowly for about 4 to 6 seconds. The exhale should be smooth and unforced. Repeating 5 to 10 breaths is usually enough to feel a change. This technique is especially helpful after light activity when you feel short of breath, when anxiety appears suddenly, or when you sense your blood pressure rising and do not know what to do in that moment. Many people notice that after just a few breaths, their shoulders soften, the chest feels less tight, and the heart no longer feels like it is pounding. With regular practice, the body begins to remember that when stress or shortness of breath appears, there is a gentle way out. And when the feeling of safety returns, blood pressure often comes down naturally as well. Why simply sitting down can change your blood pressure? There is something many adults over 60 do not notice. They focus on breathing techniques, but forget that their body position may still be sending stress signals to the brain. You may be trying to breathe slowly, but if your shoulders are lifted, your back is rigid, or your jaw is clenched, the nervous system still interprets this as a need to stay alert. And when the body does not feel safe, breathing cannot fully do its job. Proper sitting posture does not mean sitting stiff like a soldier. It means a position where the body does not have to hold itself up or brace against gravity. When the body is well supported, breathing naturally becomes slower and deeper without effort. Start with the chair. It should have a backrest that is high enough so your back does not have to be held up by muscle tension. Sit with your hips resting firmly on the chair, your back gently supported. Do not arch and do not slump. Place both feet flat on the floor, not tiptoeing and not pulled back. The knees should form a near square angle. This is the position where the body feels the most stable. Next, bring your attention to the shoulders. Many people unconsciously lift their shoulders when stressed. Simply letting the shoulders drop sends a very clear signal to the nervous system that there is no need to stay on guard. Keep the neck and head upright, not leaning forward. Let the chin soften instead of holding it tight. One small but extremely important detail is the jaw and the tongue. When we feel anxious, the jaw often clenches and the tongue presses against the roof of the mouth. This keeps the nervous system in a heightened state. Allow the jaw to relax naturally. Let the teeth rest apart instead of pressing together. Let the tongue rest gently in the mouth. This change alone helps many people feel their breathing flow more easily, almost immediately. When the body is placed in this position, you do not need to force deep breathing. Simply inhale gently through the nose and exhale slowly through the mouth or with pursed lips. The breath naturally becomes longer. The heart rate begins to slow. Blood vessels relax. Blood pressure tends to come down in a natural way. What is especially important is that proper sitting posture matters not only during breathing practice. It is crucial when measuring blood pressure. If you sit incorrectly, with your feet not touching the floor or your back unsupported, the body senses instability, and the number on the blood pressure monitor is often higher than your true resting level. Breathing technique number 3, box breathing. Building long-term stability for blood pressure. After discussing techniques that help lower blood pressure quickly during stressful moments, we now need a different kind of breathing. This one is not for handling an immediate situation. It is for teaching the body how to stay in a stable state over time. This technique is called box breathing, sometimes referred to as square breathing. Many adults over 60 tell me they no longer experience sudden bursts of intense stress. Instead, they live with a constant background sense of unease. Not exactly anxiety, but not true calm either. This feeling is often more noticeable in the evening, when the body is tired, but the mind refuses to slow down. In these situations, box breathing is especially helpful. Box breathing is a very rhythmic breathing pattern. You inhale for a fixed amount of time. You hold the breath for the same amount of time. You exhale for that same length, and then you pause briefly before the next breath, again for the same length. 4 equal phases, creating a breathing rhythm that feels steady and predictable. The simplest example is a 4-second rhythm. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, pause for 4 seconds. If you are new to this technique, you can use a 3-second rhythm if that feels more comfortable. The most important thing is not the number, but the consistency. Why does this kind of breathing help stabilize blood pressure over the long term? The heart and the lungs are constantly communicating. When you inhale, the heart rate naturally rises slightly. When you exhale, the heart rate slows. Box breathing organizes this rise and fall into a clear, gentle pattern. Over time, the heart learns to respond more flexibly, instead of staying locked in a tense rhythm. The best way to practice is sitting or lying down in a comfortable position, as described earlier in the section on posture. You do not need to breathe deeply, just breathe gently and follow the rhythm. If holding the breath feels uncomfortable at any point, shorten the time. Box breathing should never be done with force. When practiced regularly, just 2 to 5 minutes each day, box breathing gradually becomes a familiar internal rhythm. And once the body becomes accustomed to that rhythm, baseline blood pressure often becomes more stable, even on busy days or after poor sleep. Breathing and sleep. Stabilizing blood pressure when the body truly rests. There is one important fact many adults over 60 are never clearly told. Nighttime blood pressure is just as important as daytime blood pressure. In fact, for many people, blood pressure is highest only after they lie down. At night, the mind feels tired, but the body refuses to let go. The heart rate does not slow as expected. Breathing stays shallow, the chest feels slightly tight, and blood pressure remains elevated for many hours during sleep. The cause is often not the heart itself. It is that the nervous system does not recognize that it is time to rest. Before bedtime, if you scroll on a bright screen, replay the events of the day in your mind, or breathe quickly without noticing, the body still believes it must stay alert. When that happens, blood vessels do not fully relax. The heart rate does not drop enough, and nighttime blood pressure becomes difficult to control. Changing just one small thing before sleep can make a significant difference. That change is slow, steady breathing for a few minutes after you lie down and turn off the lights. You do not need a complex technique. You can use gentle box breathing, or simply inhale through the nose and exhale more slowly through the mouth. What matters most is that the exhale is longer than the inhale. When that happens, the parasympathetic nervous system becomes more active. The heart rate begins to slow. Blood vessels soften, and blood pressure naturally starts to fall, in alignment with the body's sleep rhythm. This is not a coincidence. Deep sleep is when the body repairs itself, but the body only repairs when it feels safe, and breathing is the key that opens that door. If what we are sharing feels familiar and reflects your own experience, consider subscribing to the channel to continue this journey with us. We share health guidance designed specifically for adults over 60, in a gentle, practical, and science-based way. And now, we will move on to one final breathing technique, not just to lower blood pressure quickly, and not only to stabilize it at night, but to teach the body a new default breathing rhythm, helping blood pressure fluctuate less throughout the entire day. Breathing technique number 4, resonance breathing, teaching the body a new default rhythm. There is a question many adults over 60 quietly ask themselves, but rarely say out loud. If I have to breathe the right way for the rest of my life, will that be exhausting? Will I always have to control my body? The answer is no, and this is exactly why resonance breathing matters so much. Resonance breathing is not meant to lower blood pressure in a few minutes. It is not designed for a specific stressful moment. Its goal is to retrain the body's baseline breathing rhythm, so that when you are not thinking about anything, when you are simply resting, the body naturally chooses this calmer rhythm on its own. In other words, this is how calm becomes the default state, rather than something you have to force. The method is very gentle. You inhale slowly and evenly through the nose. Then you exhale slowly and evenly through the nose or the mouth. There is no breath holding. There is no forcing the rhythm. The ideal pace is usually just a little slower than normal, smooth and comfortable. For many people, this works out to about 5 to 6 breaths per minute. But you do not need to count precisely. If you give the body time, it will naturally find the rhythm that suits it best. When you breathe this way for a few minutes each day, something important begins to happen. The pressure sensors inside the blood vessels, whose job is to regulate blood pressure, become more responsive. They react earlier and more gently. Instead of allowing blood pressure to rise high and then pulling it back down, the body begins to adjust from the very beginning. Many people notice subtle but meaningful changes. They no longer breathe rapidly while resting. When sitting quietly, their breathing is naturally slower than before. When lying down, the chest no longer feels tight, and during mild stress, the body automatically returns to this slower rhythm without conscious effort. This is the greatest difference with resonance breathing. It does not require you to remember what to do when things feel overwhelming. It continues working even when you forget about it. The best way to practice is to attach it to a familiar daily moment. For example, after waking up and sitting quietly on the bed for a few minutes, or after lying down at night before sleep. Just 3 to 5 minutes per day is enough. There is no need for more. Over time, as the baseline breathing rhythm changes, blood pressure often becomes more stable throughout the day, not because you are controlling it, but because the body has relearned how to regulate itself. And when the body remembers that rhythm, calm is no longer something you chase. It becomes the place you naturally return to. Why shallow breathing quietly raises blood pressure. Many adults over 60 tell me they do not feel stressed. They are not arguing. They are not rushing. They are not worrying excessively. And yet their blood pressure remains high or fluctuates unpredictably. What surprises many people is this: the body can be under stress even when the mind believes it is resting. The reason lies in the way we breathe. After the age of 60, many people begin to breathe more shallowly without realizing it. The shoulders lift during inhalation. The chest moves quickly. The abdomen barely moves at all. This is a breathing pattern that signals alertness. It is as if the body is always prepared to respond, even when there is no clear threat. When shallow breathing continues over time, the sympathetic nervous system quietly stays more active than necessary. Blood vessels do not fully relax. The vessel walls maintain a constant, mild level of constriction. And it is this prolonged, subtle tightening that causes blood pressure to rise, little by little, over time. What makes this process dangerous is that it does not cause pain. It does not create obvious discomfort. Many people only become aware of it when they measure their blood pressure, or when their doctor tells them the numbers are higher than before. At that point, they often think about the heart, the blood vessels, or medication. Very few people think about breathing. Another reason this becomes more noticeable after 60 is the increased sensitivity of the nervous system. The same breathing pattern, the same level of tension, now produces a stronger response in an older body than it did when younger. This explains why habits that once seemed harmless can now have a greater impact on blood pressure. There is one very common sign. Many people say that even when they are sitting quietly watching television, reading, or lying down to rest, their chest does not feel fully comfortable. Their breathing feels short. From time to time, they feel the need to take a forceful breath out, as if trying to catch up on air. This is a clear sign of prolonged, shallow breathing. When the body remains in this state, even with a balanced diet or proper medication use, the nervous system continues to send alert signals to the brain. And as long as that signal remains unchanged, blood pressure is very difficult to stabilize completely. The most important thing to remember is this: shallow breathing is not your fault. It is a reflex that develops gradually over time, through stress, illness, and the natural changes of aging. But the good news is that this reflex can be retrained. When you begin to notice where your breathing is happening, and you learn to lengthen the exhale, soften the shoulders, and relax the abdomen, the nervous system slowly receives a new message. Things are safer than you think, and when that message is repeated often enough, blood pressure no longer needs to stay on guard the way it once did. Medication is not wrong, but it is not enough when the breath still signals danger. There is something many adults over 60 find difficult to say out loud. They take their medication faithfully. They follow their doctor's instructions carefully. And yet, inside, there is still a lingering sense of unease, as if the body never truly settles. And each time blood pressure is measured, the numbers can suddenly jump, even when there seems to be no clear reason. This often leads people to blame themselves. They assume they have not done enough. But the truth is this: medication is not wrong. Medication is doing exactly what it is designed to do. The issue lies somewhere else. If your breathing is still sending danger signals to the brain, then even if medication lowers pressure inside the blood vessels, the nervous system will continue to hold the body in a state of alert. And when these two systems are not speaking the same language, the body remains under constant strain. Think of it this way. Medication is like turning down the flow of water in a pipe. But if the control valve remains tightly clenched because the system senses danger, pressure will never truly stabilize. Breathing is that valve. When breathing is shallow, fast, or rushed, the brain interprets this as a sign that something is not safe. The body's natural response is to keep blood pressure higher, ready to respond. This is a survival reflex. It does not care whether you are sitting quietly or lying down. It only responds to the signals it receives. That is why some people see their blood pressure rise the moment they step into a clinic. Not because their heart is weak, but because their breathing changes as soon as they walk through the door. The shoulders lift, the chest tightens, breathing becomes shorter, and the nervous system instantly switches into alert mode. The key point to understand is this: proper breathing does not replace medication, but it allows medication to work more completely. When the breath sends a calming signal, blood vessels soften, and the heart no longer has to fight against constant background tension. Only then can the efforts you are making for your health truly reach their full effect. For adults over 60, this coordination is especially important. The body does not need more pressure, it needs agreement. When medication handles the physical side, and breathing supports the nervous system, blood pressure has a much better chance to stabilize in a gentler and more lasting way. And this is why we must look at blood pressure not only as a number on a machine, but as a reflection of how safe the body feels on the inside. How to bring breathing into daily life without creating pressure. At this point, there is one very important thing to remember. The breathing techniques we have discussed are not exercises you must complete. They are tools that help the body feel safer in ordinary, everyday moments. And the most effective way to maintain them is to attach them to moments that already exist in your day. In the morning, as soon as you wake up, before getting out of bed, take one quiet minute to sit still. You do not need to do anything complicated. Just 2 or 3 cycles of the physiologic sigh, or a few slow breaths with a longer exhale. This helps the nervous system avoid starting the day in a rushed state. Many people notice that when the day begins with slower breathing, morning blood pressure feels much more manageable. Before measuring blood pressure, this is when breathing makes one of the clearest differences. Instead of putting the cuff on your arm right away, sit in the proper position. Both feet on the floor, back gently supported, shoulders relaxed. Then perform 2 to 3 cycles of the physiologic sigh, or pursed lip breathing, for about 1 minute. Not to force the number down, but to let the body understand that nothing dangerous is happening. When that signal is sent, the reading often reflects your true resting state more accurately. The most important part is your attitude. Do not treat breathing as a task. Treat it as permission for the body to rest. Even if you only manage 1 or 2 minutes per day, the body still responds. The nervous system learns through gentle repetition, not through force. When the breath becomes the body's anchor. After everything we have covered, there is one key message I want you to remember. High blood pressure is not always a sign that the body is broken. Very often, it is simply a sign that the body has been on alert for too long without proper rest. Breathing does not replace medication, but breathing helps the body accept the calm that medication provides. When the nervous system settles, the heart no longer has to strain. Blood vessels no longer need to stay tense, and blood pressure has the opportunity to stabilize in a more natural way. If you remember only one thing from this video, remember this. Your body is not working against you. It is waiting to be guided with safe, gentle, familiar signals. If this video helped you understand your body more clearly, consider sharing it with a friend or loved one over 60. And if this is your first time here, subscribe to the channel so we can continue walking with you, one small step at a time, toward a healthier and more peaceful life.